was Additional Chief Secretary of Kerala when she was retiring. And also she held so many posts in so many capacities. It is a very good thing for me that I'll be speaking the systems approach and the public policy formulation, and she'll be giving the inputs regarding this systemic approach, systems approach from the practical side. So that way, this is a learning experience for me as well. First slide, please. Formulating public policy, it's a very tough job. Basically, policy reflects the priorities of actions or goals to be achieved within a particular time frame and in a particular context by whoever it may be. I mean, it may be local government, it may be state government, it may be federal government, union government, but that is there should be certain priorities of actions, and there should be certain time frame, and these objectives are stated to be achieved within a particular time frame. So that is the policy. Now, it's not that the state government will have to, when we are talking about public policy, we are talking about government policies. Now, it's not that the government will have to do something. It may not do something, and that may be the policy. That's why I have referred to McCain and Saxtonell's understanding and applying basic public policy concepts, where they are speaking that, generally speaking, public policy is what the government chooses to do or not to do. It is a decision made by the government to either act or not to act in order to resolve the problem. For example, just I'm giving the example. The example should be better given by Dr. Pal. But let me just give you an example of farmers protest that is going on. The avowed policy of the government is not to take any action regarding that. That is also a policy. So it's either to act, government stated action or non-action. That is basically a public policy. Now, whenever the policy is being formulated, in this policy process, we face many questions like what plan should be followed to solve the problem. In fact, policy must be problem oriented. There should be certain problem, and to solve that problem, only if there is no problem, there is no need of any policy. So it's basically an action oriented discipline. Now, what plan should be, there is a problem, so what plan should be followed to solve a problem? In solving the problem, what will be the goals, priorities, objectives? Which alternative will have the positive cost benefit effects? These are the questions which are taken into account when the public policy is being formulated. So this is identifying the problem, then identification of the plan to deal with that problem, then the goals and priorities and objectives in dealing with the problem, then alternatives, which alternative will be the best regarding positive cost benefit impact, and many other impacts as well. So not only cost benefit, but also other regarding impacts also. So these are the things which will have to be asked whenever a policy maker is going to formulate a public policy. Next slide, please. Now, public policy reflects values and norms of the governing entity, the hidden participants. Who are these participants? They are bureaucrats, they are legislative subcommittees, they are, various organs of the government, and the institutions of the governments, the organs of the governments. So these are the hidden participants, the bureaucrats. Basically, the bureaucrats, of course, the politicians are there. Politicians, bureaucrats, legislative committees, the experts in the legislative committees, they are the hidden participants and they are the governing entity. Now, whenever since these values and norms are reflected in the public policy, uh, in the four types you can identify the public policy system. I mean, public policy, Theodore J. Loy, that is classic. He gave an example long back in 1972. Theodore Loy gave four policy, four types of classic types of policies that we will be referring to here. In fact, that article I have, but he has done it in such an original manner that it would be a bit difficult for the commoners to understand. So that's why I have taken some other references and I have mentioned that from the website to describe these four types. One is distributive policy, another is redistributive policy, another is regulatory policy, another is constituent policy. Now, what is the redistributive policy? Distributive policy is like tends to collect payments or resources from many, but concentrates direct benefits on relatively few. Like Singur land case. Just think of Singur land case that was a landmark case in West Bengal, on the basis of which, in fact, Mamata Banerjee for the first time came into prominence and she became the chief minister of West Bengal. So in Singur land case, it happened that many people were forced to give the land, and after that, that land was being given to Tata, Ratan Tata. Of course, the government's intention was good to industry. That was a major conjecture, but the policy was distributive policies. Here, the tends to collect payments or resources from many, but concentrates direct benefits on relatively few. Then comes redistributive policy. Redistributes resources in society from one group to another. The costs are concentrated and so are the benefits, but different groups bear the costs and enjoy the benefits. For example, TPDS, Targeted Public Distribution System. So here, the resources are collected from the taxpayers. They keep the taxes, and on the basis of that taxpayers' burden, some, marginalized people, they are giving benefits, benefits of food grains, benefits of health services, benefits of education services. So TPDS, Targeted Public Distribution System of food grains, that is a perfect example of redistributive policy. Next. Third is regulatory policy. A relatively small number of groups or individuals bear the costs of regulatory policy, but its benefits are expected to be distributed broadly across society. Example is tax on alcohol. Tax on alcohol every year, every government, central government, state government, whenever there is budget, there is an increase of tax on alcohol because government wants to regulate the drinkers. That is one way, and another way to see the thing is that government wants to collect money from them because it's bad. Normally, it is perceived as that drinking is a bad habit. So if you want to drink, you will have to pay more. And once you pay more, that payment will be collected and distributed among other people, marginalized people, or other people as well. So a relatively small number of groups or individuals bear the cost of regulatory policy. It regulates, but its benefits are expected to be distributed broadly across society. And last is constituent policy. It is concerned with the establishment of government structure, establishment of rules or procedures for the conduct of government, rules that distribute or divide power and jurisdiction within the present and future government policies might be made. For example, Disaster Management Act. This is now, still now, Disaster Management Act 2005 it is in force still now. And Disaster Management Act has a severe impact upon the federal structure because in certain cases, government can override, central government can override the state government jurisdictions. For example, health. Health is an exclusive jurisdiction of state government, but Whenever the Disaster Management Act is there, and that's the government policy now, that Disaster Management Act will be enforced for some time more. And then in that case, the state government, without consulting state governments, central government can send the team, central government can send the expert committee, whatever it may be, and they can give the directions to the state government that we immediately go by this, and state government will have to comply by that. Next slide, please. Now, systems approaching, these are the policies, types of policies. Now, if we go to systems approaching policy formulation, we'll have to see that it can contribute to a great extent to policy planning and formulation by federal, state, and local governments, since it provides a comprehensive theory of guiding action by systematic utilization of a large body of only partly articulated and largely intuitive judgment by experts in the field is involved. This is E.S. Quaid has written. This is E.S. Quaid wrote it in 1969 that the systems approach basically is a comprehensive theory of guiding actions by systematic utilization of a large body of only partly articulated and largely intuitive judgment by experts in the fields involved. So, why this is, he has said so, we'll have to go by the systems approach. And then going by the systems approach, one must look at the problem as a whole and in its proper context, because you'll have to see the systems as a comprehensive whole. Then it's composed of interdependent parts. So just going by seeing a particular part, looking at a particular incident, looking at a particular thing, you cannot come to the conclusion. So systems approach always talks about looking at the thing from a systemic view, with a systemic view. So with a systemic view, the experts will go through the problems, the complexities of the problems, and they will formulate the policy. Next slide, please. Now, first, what are the inquiries? 3 required interrelated inquiries. Quaid says that there are 3 interrelated inquiries when systemic approach is being made to formulate the policy. First, what are the objectives of the organization, institution in solving a problem, and what is the way to measure the effectiveness of the alternatives? So, organization or institution is some organization or institution is trying to solve a problem. Now, what are the objectives? The first thing is to locate the objectives of the organization. What is the objective of organization in solving the problem? It is trying to solve the problem for the marginalized people, or for the middle income group, or for the rich people, or for the bureaucrat, or for the teaching population. What is the objective? Who is going to be benefited? That is the first thing. Second, what is the way to measure the effectiveness of the alternatives? So, will we go by only by the cost benefit analysis, or by some other method? Because it's maybe some hefty cost will be involved, but the alternative that will give a sustainable development in the long run. So, should we go only by the effectiveness by the cost benefit analysis, or by some other method? So, the way to measure the effectiveness, that is also to be taken first. Second, the available alternatives to be found out. What are the available alternatives? This is a very important thing for any policy planner, policy formulator. What are the available alternatives? A bridge can be made up. I heard from one of my relatives that he was talking to Chief Minister, and Chief Minister told that when long back, when Bhattacharyya was the Chief Minister of West Bengal, he used to tell, he said that, for example, bridge is being made. I do not know which type of which method would be followed, should be followed for a perfect thing. Now the engineers are coming to me telling, some engineers are coming to me telling that this is a low cost thing, but it will take a little more time, I mean 12 years. And someone came to me and told me that you will have to take the decision regarding that it will be very short duration. For example, within 3 years it will, but if the cost will be 3 times more. Now, you will have to find out that whether in the long run, after 12 years, whether he will be in power, then also the cost will be increased, going by inflation rate, how much the cost will be increased. So there are many things, and these available alternatives, the person who discusses or who focuses on these, who in fact examines these alternatives that regarding feasibility, regarding cost benefit, and regarding risk, what are the risks involved in this process, that's a very tough job. And available alternatives to be found out and thoroughly investigated regarding its feasibility, regarding cost benefit, regarding risk outcome. And thirdly, the alternatives must be compared for final choice. That feasibility wise, this is the best choice. Cost benefit wise, this is the best choice. Risk outcome wise, this is the best choice. And among these three, which will be the best choice, that will have to be found out. So if it is found that no alternative is able to reach the objective, then new goals will have to be set. Next slide, please. Now, let us come to this is the part that we'll leave it for the time being. Now we come to systemic approach or systems analysis that was given by David Easton. What is a system? A system, it's all the political science students, they in the first year or second year, they go by this David Easton's famous systems analysis. A system consists of interdependent parts, meaning change in one part will affect others. First thing is that it consists of interdependent parts. One change in one part will affect others. Second, it has a definite boundary, meaning thereby there is a definite environment outside the boundary. And third is outside the boundary, for example, in case of political system, economy, religion, then caste system, then social system. These are the environment for a political system. Third is that it's a comprehensible, meaning thereby the parts will not have a separate existence outside the whole. For example, a body. Whenever we identify a particular thing like chicken, we cannot tell chicken leg as chicken. So chicken, when we talk about chicken, we mean the whole body of the chicken. So that is the thing that in a system also, parts will not have a separate existence outside the whole. Now the problem lies in the nature of the system. David Easton himself told that it is intangible and analytical in nature. For the purpose of analysis, he said that for the purpose of analysis, I have developed my system. So a system is developed for the purpose of analysis and can begin to be defined only in relation to the purposes of the observer. That if it is a political scientist, he will define the system from his perspective. If it is an economist, if it is an economist, he will define the system from his perspective. And if it's a sociologist, he will define the perspective from his angle. Now, to see the problem in systems terms does not necessarily mean the result of the analysis is a fully specified system. Systemic models imply understanding of process based on interlinkages between system components. That there are, interlinkages between, because I'll come to that a little later. That David Easton said there is a free flow of exchanges between system and environment. So the process interlinkages between system components within the system with subsystems and system with other systems. There is an interlinkages and fully specified system. You cannot tell it. Whenever you are saying that you are telling that there is a problem in system terms, you will have to think about the interlinkages between system components. You cannot see it in an isolated manner. So it's a comprehensive whole. Whenever you are looking at the thing, you will have to look at it from a system perspective. That this is the systemic, systemic fault, and you will have to repair it as a systemic fault, not as a just isolate it and repair it. Then it will go on. The fault will go on. So when the system of interest is described, its environment becomes apparent, and the linkages. If a person tells that this is my system, then its environment becomes apparent, because political system, when political scientists tell that this is my system, its environment becomes apparent. The linkages, whether hierarchical, particle, across the boundaries, that also become apparent. That in what way it is connected with the political system, economic system, social system, racial system, caste system, that also becomes apparent. Next. This is systems analysis. Actually, he wrote this. This I have taken from, in fact, website, but I have mentioned that. But in fact, this is David Easton in his article. He has given the same thing. This is the system, political system, demands, supports. The arrow is from decisions, from decisions and policies, going to supports and demands, and supports and demands come within the political system. Within political system, David Easton tells there are three basic components, that is regime, authority, and political community. Regime is that rules, regulations according to which values are being allocated. Who allocates the values? That is authority, and then for whom the authority allocating the thing, that is political community, and that becomes the binding for the political community. So it's not that once the decision is made, the system comes to a halt. Once again, it creates certain responses within the environment, and that those responses, that may be positive, that may be negative, but that comes through the feedback, and it comes once again if the demands and supports that are presented before the political system, and political system once again takes up the theme and allocates the values in accordance with the regime. Now, sometimes the stress also in political system comes into the stress, and there are certain stress regulatory mechanisms. I'm not going into details of David Easton systems analysis, but whenever we are talking about systems analysis, we always think of David Easton as the proponent of systems analysis. In 1953, he wrote his first book, Political System, and second is System Analysis in 1965, the systems analysis of political life. Both are basically the same thing written in the light of systems analysis. So that is David Easton systems analysis, which has been presented in the diagram here. The next slide, please. Now, if you go by systems analysis, in simple terms, going by the systems theory, public policy is nothing but the response of the political system to demands from its environment. Always in every system, political system, there is certain demands from the environment, and those demands, to respond to those demands, political system takes up certain policies. So that way, going by the systems theory, public policy is nothing but the response of the political system to demands from its environment. Of course, there is support. There is a support mechanism that is to uphold the legitimacy of the system. There are some mechanisms by which legitimacy of the system is being put forward. But at the same time, the demands are also there. So these demands, basically to respond to these demands, taking into account the supports from the environment, the system, public political system makes the public policy. Now, the political system contains the authority, which following which makes the authority that are already to the authoritative allocation of values binding on the society as a whole, that is political government. And there is also a free flow of exchanges between the system and its environment. Now, this free flow of exchanges, their meaning thereby, it's not that the system will always influence the environment. The environment also can influence the system. So, in some cases, is the environment that there is a political system gives us certain responses, the public policy, and that may not be welcome for the political community, and they may also influence the political system to change that public policy. So that way, there is a free flow of exchanges between the system and its environment. The institutions of the economic, social, cultural, and international systems remain as environment for a political system. Using systems approach, it is assumed that a state of mutual possession exists between public policy and environmental variables. There are certain environmental variables. They always put forward certain demands, and to respond to those demands, the government will have to take certain public policy, and that is the systems that is public policy, defining public policy from the perspective of systems analysis. Next slide, please. Now, Jenny Stewart and Russell Avars, they observe that there are two main ways in which systems analysis can be applied to policy making. Now, I'm coming to policy formulation. What is policy, public policy from the perspective of systems analysis that I have already told. Now, two main ways in which systems analysis can be applied to policy. What are these two ways? I've quoted here that it can be used as a way of understanding what is happening when policy is made, systems analysis of policy. So it is one is that systems analysis of policy and systems analysis for policy. So one is of policy. Now of policy, systems analysis of policy, that policy has been made. Now you are going to make it systems analysis. Now this is more metaphorical and because than methodological, they have proved that it is ultimately describes certain complex interplay of actors and institutions, because here basically once the policy has been made, now you are going to analyze the system to tell that the way how it is impacting the system, or whether the policy is good for the system. So it is basically systems analysis of policy. The policy in response to the system, how it is, that is being done in systems analysis of policy. And here basically the interplay of actors and institutions. Institution has posed this policy, and now the actors is either positively or negatively acting on behalf of that, acting on that particular policy. That is being told. So this is a complex interplay of actors and institutions that is being described in the systems analysis of policy. But very important thing is that second part, that is they are telling that it can be used as a way of generating concepts, ideas, and modes of action when policymakers try to make recommendations about policy problems. Systems analysis for policy. That in fact, you know, the system, any system, we are talking in a very simple term. I mean, Rabindranath knows much better than all of us that how system is so complex that you cannot isolate one thing from another. If you try to do this thing, there will be some other problem. So it's a generative concept. What the policymakers try to make recommendations for policy problems, that this is the system, this is the complex system. You cannot change this system. If you want to alter this system, you will have to make this plan, and this will be the impact of this. So this is the systems analysis for policy that you have identified certain objective. Now, the way I'm presenting the system is very simple. That is not very simple. To locate what are the basic components in a system, that is very important. You know, it's so important that we cannot, it's not the easily identifiable things are there. There may be caste, there may be religion, there may be race, there may be environment, there may be these blah blah. So many things are involved in this. Now, now policymakers try to make the recommendations of policy problems, and for that part, they present this whole complex problem. They analyze the whole complex system, and on the basis of that, systems analysis is made. So that is systems analysis for policy. Since the 1970s, with the increasing frequency of in the 1990s, the problem confronting modern governments have become so complex, profound, and interdependent that the case for systems analysis for policy has been repeated. Because without, for example, environmental system, we work in NDRG, I mean, National Disaster Research Group. In environment, I have told that in later part that you cannot identify this is air pollution, this is water pollution, so you will just change the air pollution law and the problem will be solved. It will be interlinked with industry, it will be interlinked with development, and once you restrict the industry, there will be unemployment. So many things are involved there. For example, I went to just to see the impact of sea coastal acts, are there, coastal laws are there, that within 500 meters of low tide zone, there cannot be any building. But to one area on which I have written a paper and that has been published, Mandarmani in West Bengal, Chief Minister went there to tell that there will not be any building, no more building from today onwards. And after that, Telegraph wrote, and I showed that within after 2 months, it was seen that 19 more buildings have come up there. So that is the way. And if you want to tell them, they will say, we are giving the employment to the poor people. Why are you objecting this? So environment, for the sake of what will you do? You do the environmental job. I mean, you clean the environment or you give the employment. These are so complexly related. Now, analysts have indicated that only systems-based paradigm can begin to comprehend these complex and interdependent problems. If you go by this system, these are the whole thing. If you take into account all the things, related things, then only you can find that these are the basically problems, challenges in a system, and I'll have to clean this in that way for the purpose of this objective to fulfill this goal within this time perspective. So this is the way since 1970s up still now it's going on. It's increasing in frequency that systemic analysis, systems analysis for policy is being repeated. Next slide, please. Now, how this is made? That it is a systems policy. You have identified that there is a system. It's there. You have identified, for example, it's complex. Let it be taken for granted that we have identified all the complex elements. It's difficult to identify, but then we have identified. Now we'll have to intervene. So, what is how the policy interventions can be made? In such a situation of systems analysis for policy attempts to effect a change from one system to state to another by policy intervention, that you will have to change the system, then you will have to make a policy intervention. Now, policy intervention can be, it cannot be made in a direct method. I mean, it should be in a For example, some people are involved. For example, uh, what I have told, given the example of Mandarmani sea beach in West Bengal. You cannot directly just put them behind the bars and tell that no, you have done these things. So you will have to make a policy intervene that no, this is the beach. You cannot digress this beach in that manner. So you'll have to be law abiding. So uh, only if you are law abiding, in that case, we'll have a clean beach and a transformative society in future. So, for example, if the alcohol drinkers are to be restricted, you cannot put the alcohol drinkers behind the bars. You'll have to tax the liquor, maybe tax on the liquor, maybe increase. Shops may be closed for 2 days in a week, and so on. There are so many intervention ways. Uh, uh, or we can take the example of business groups also. That business groups, for example, business groups, they always interest groups, business groups, they are hidden participants of policy intervention, policy making. So I forgot that interest groups are very important. In America, it is called lobbying. In India, it's interest groups. Interest groups are very important, significant hidden participant for formulation of policy intervention and formulation of policies. And they intervene the manner that, for example, there is a cartel system that some other people, for example, one businessman, reputed businessman, is coming in a particular area. Many people tell that when Tata wanted to make that nano factory in West Bengal, it was some other industrialists, they indirectly intervened in this. So business groups also intervene in that manner. So policy interventions is made in such a way, uh, it is very indirect. It's not very direct that you just go tell them that you cannot do that. You don't it's not done in that manner. It's a very indirect manner. Policy interventions are made. Now, policy thus must theorize some connection between system and environment, but its mode of operation is necessarily indirect. That is, Jenny, Stewart, and Russell asked that you will make the connection. You will have to make a connection between system and environment. But whenever you try to intervene it, your operation must be indirect. You should not be very direct. That it's not like quarreling. That what we go on direct interventions is like quarreling. That you just go or forcefully make one person remove from a particular area and you just put your claim there. It's not like that. It will have to be very indirect in policy intervention. Next slide, please. Now, then comes the problem of designing intervention. How to design this intervention? There are conventional policy instruments are either incentives or sanctions. That very complex on interrelated subsystem situation are there. So you may give certain incentives that if you follow this, you will be rewarded, and if you don't follow, you will be punished. That is previous method, I mean conventional policy instruments. But now this is being reconceptualized. You cannot, once you identify these are the components which will have to be changed, you identify that there should be policy intervention and indirect intervention. It cannot be those conventional policy instruments like incentive sanctions now must be reconceptualized. In that way, there may be three ways. I mean, soft systems approach allows target groups to shape their own responses to problems rather than being subject to the results of hard systems analysis. Hard systems analysis is that you exclude. Either you exist or I exist. So that is hard systems analysis. But soft systems approach allows target groups to shape their own responses to problems. You communicate. Here, basically, approaches, emphasis is, in fact, more. I mean, more democratic states are more rely on the subsystems approach, that they always put communications in force, and through communication it emphasizes the social learning, and by law, or by economy, or by politics, they emphasize the social learning. That means you make a law, or you increase the tax. These are all social learning. That, for example, you make a law that if you don't do this, if you do this, if you go out of your home without any mask, you will be penalized, you will be fined. That's the law. But that law cannot make the system operative. So in that case, you'll have to continuously communicate. And the social learning through interventions, policy will be to make this law bigger, to make the people aware of this law, and make the people aware of the necessity of this law. Not the law, but necessity. Hard system will talk about only the law, but soft system will take the necessity of the law, that this is for your purpose, for your benefit, this law should be abided. Until and unless you abide by this law, you yourself will be in danger. Then also economic tax, because tax justification is being given. Alcohol, nobody talks about alcohol or smoking. Taxes on alcohol or taxes on cigarettes that are increased, and why this is being increased continuously, that is being told in the TV, and this is being shown also, that you have seen so many advertisements on behalf of the government, cigarette smoking, the harmful effect of cigarette smoking. And also politics. Politics is that mobilize people, to mobilize the people that you abide by this. For your purpose, you should abide by this, and you should go by this. So this is the soft systems approach. Always communicate through law, through economy, through politics, and they always try to make people aware of the necessity of the law, necessity of the economy, alternate or necessity of the economy that is being proposed, or necessity of the politics being proposed. Next slide, please. Now, there is another theory of intervention is suggested by autopoietic perspective, Luhmann. Luhmann, another public administration expert, he suggested another autopoietic perspective, that is, it highlights self-organizing aspects of those systems of communication which constitute social life. Because he proposes that there is no, in fact, to me, it looked like Gandhian way of dealing with public administration, because Gandhi always talked about this system, that you'll have to make the system self-organized. It should be so self-disciplined. There is no discipline is needed from outside, and that was told by Luhmann, in fact. So that way, it highlights self-organizing aspects of the system of communication, that you communicate with the people. There is no need of any law, any economy, or any politics. You communicate the people which constitute social life, communication in social life, in social media, in TV, mass media, and in many other ways. You communicate with people, and in such cases, system becomes so self-organized. That is the way of Gandhi. That is the way Gandhi also talked about self-discipline, disciplining the society, that it becomes so organized, it does not require in order to be imposed from outside. That's why Gandhi told about, I'm an anarchist, but anarchist of another sort. I'm an enlightened anarchist. So it talks about enlightened anarchism. So anyway, Luhmann's general advice that responsibility could be more important than efficiency. Just imagine that it's not that if we talk about always efficiency, and that government is so indeterminate, it cannot take so indecisive. It's taking this, then taking this. But Luhmann is telling that responsive, you just be responsive. Responsibility could be more important than efficiency, and that indetermination in certain limits is an achievement. That government is indeterminate, but at the same time, it's responding to some people. In fact, if you too much respond, you become indeterminate. If you are not responding to the people, you can understand the thing. Going by the Indian political system, you can yourself can analyze the thing that if a system becomes too much responsive, it becomes a little indeterminate, and that is and inefficient as well. But at the same time, that indeterminacy in certain limits is an achievement human is taking. Next slide, please. Now coming to the evaluation. What are the problems associated with systems approach in policy formulation? It is difficult, systems approach in policy formulation is difficult to comprehend and maybe counterintuitive. Why? It also leads to uncomfortable conclusion as to the limits faced by policymakers in their efforts to understand, analyze, influence, or control the various systems with which they are concerned. In fact, it's not that systems approaching policy formulation, you have to know your system, the political system, the system you're talking about, you'll have to know on your system, but you'll have to know other systems as well. So if you come to certain conclusion, then you can find that it becomes uncomfortable coming from economy, from other systems as well. So systems approach is very difficult to comprehend in a way, because not only the policymakers will have to understand the system, because it's not only analyzing or examining the administrative system. He's going to propose a particular policy which will have the impact upon society, economy, caste system, marginalized people, then all these people, they are being impacted. So that way, he will have to understand many systems, and that's why it becomes very difficult to comprehend. Second is that social, political, economic systems are often so messy and so complex that simplifying them limits the usefulness of applying systems analysis. Now, you will have to comprehend the system, but these systems, social, political, economic, and there are so many religious systems in India. If you want to make any policy, you will have to understand religion as well. So religious system you will have to understand in a very good manner. Without that, our caste system is not very important for any policy planner, because first thing the objection will come from the social religious system or caste system. So that way, simplifying them limits the usefulness of applying the systems analysis, because these are so complex. These economic, social, political systems, caste systems, religious systems are so messy, so complex that simplifying them limits, the usefulness of applying systems analysis. Next slide, please. Second limitation of the systems analysis in policy formulation lies in its claim as meta theory of policy that it can predict every facet of reality. In fact, this is a too much positivist claim that we see that the system, we collect the data from the system, and so we can predict the systems analysis. The planner who takes up the systems analysis, he always thinks that it's a meta theory of policy, so it can predict every facet of reality. But in reality, it enables policy analysts to grasp the complexity by reconceptualizing the task of exercising the influence. Basically, in an actual field, it enables the policy analyst to grasp the complexity of the system, and thereby he reconceptualizes the task of exercising influence. How much influence? upon whom it will be exerted. That is the thing, that is the benefit of this, systems analysis. In reality, they do that. It's not a meta theory of policy. It's only, it helps the policy planners or policy analysts, policy makers to grasp the complexity and to reconceptualize the task of exercising influence, whom to be influenced and how much. It should not be too much influence, then it will be out of balance, and it should not be less, very little influence, then it will be not act effort. So there should be balance. So that way, exercising influence and reconceptualizing the task of exercising influence, that is being done by the systemic systems analysis, and that is the important thing, benefit of this approach. Rather than zooming on some mechanisms for solving particular kind of policy problem, the conventional approach to policy design, that there is a particular problem, so policy problem. So to take up that policy design. Systems analysis, now I am coming to the benefit. The focus is on the fact that comprehension of the nature of the problem cannot be and should not be made in isolation of its solution. That it's a systems analysis. For example, integrated environmental management attempts to align administrative regulations with land, air, and water in an integrated manner. Regulations on land, air, or water in an integrated manner. So integrated, the thing that the integrity is very important in policy. That is being projected by systems analysis, and that is the benefit of the systems analysis approach in making it, formulating a policy. So nature of the policy, the systems analysis always tell the nature of the problem cannot be and should not be made in isolation of its solution. The solution it's being proposed should be interlinked with the nature of the problem. And whenever you're talking about the nature of the problem, you are taking the problem in an integral whole, in a systemic manner. So that way, you cannot isolate the system. You cannot go to a part of the system and you cannot project a particular solution. So that way, that's why I was talking about that environmental solution. They are interrelated with so many things: unemployment, and not only unemployment. You go to the marginalized people are involved in forest area. So, in fact, if you restrict them, then they will tell that it's because of the marginalized people. Only the for paper mill, the trees are being, being cut and being sent to the factories. But for us, just some leaves we are taking, and that is being restricted. So these are all these things that interrelated, and it's an environment. This is a policy of integrated way. This is an integral, in an integrated manner. Systems analysis talks about policy framework. And last slide, please. Finally, generally we equate decision making on the basis of building systemic models with systems analysis in policy making. But generation of distinctive analytical and implementation strategies for recommending policy preferences can also be made by systems analysis. We always talk about systems analysis that there should be systemic model, and by that we make the policy. But more benefit we can earn. That may enlighten us on that. That generation of distinctive analytical and implementation strategies for recommending policy preferences. Going by that, this is the policy preferences, and this is the distinctive analytical and implementation strategies. And this can be taken for solving this systemic problem. So more broadly, the systems approach offers policymakers a fresh set of perspectives on the fundamentals of policy. Thank you very much. I hope I have tried to make you understand some of the fundamentals of policy making from the systems approach. Now, Nikhil, will interact on this particular.
Thank you so much, Rabin sir, for the wonderful lecture, and I hope all the students really enjoyed the lecture. If Nivedita ma'am wants to make some points. Nivedita ma'am.
No, thank you, Gaurika. I was listening with great interest to Professor Robin. No, I guess I will link it in a manner when I speak, so that there is a linkage. The students understand where does the link lie.
All right, then the floor is open for discussion. If anybody wants to ask anything, wants to raise any questions, wants to clarify any doubts, please feel free to do so.
Good evening, sir.
Please.
Sir, can you explain again heart system analysis?
Heart systems heart systems do not find in reality. Basically, in a democratic system, we do not find the heart systems analysis. It's a more an authoritarian system that we find the heart systems analysis. Basically, there are what I want to tell that previously there are certain conventional approach to policy making, that either incentive or sanctions. Now there are certain three types of design. One is hard subsystems of sub-designing of intervention. Another is hard systems analysis, and thereby designing the policy in that manner. And third is autocratic designing of the system, which I call it basically a Gandhian way of thinking. The system will be more responsive. You try to tell about the thing, you communicate the things to the people, and people will automatically learn, and you don't have to force it from outside. Now, this force from outside, that is the hard systems analysis. That is the thing on which hard systems analysis emphasize more, because hard systems analysis always thinks that some other system, it's not free flow of exchanges. It is an exclusive system. This system is an exclusive system, and another system is an exclusive system. So either you come to this system or you go to that system. So that is the way. Exclusion. This is exclusive my zone. So no one can come inside this zone. So this is talked about free flow of exchanges between system and environment. But in the system, in this hard systems analysis, this free flow of exchanges is missing. Then they think that this is exclusive. Either you accept this term or that. In fact, totally hard. This is an ideal analysis. Total hard systems analysis. That policy that will be Taliban policy. That I am not talking about. So that is a hard system that if you push forward to such an extreme, then you can find Taliban system is a totally hard systems analysis. But that we are this, either you accept this or you go outside of Afghanistan. So that is the thing. That way they do. That is not to be found in other societies mostly. But in democratic societies, we always find certain soft systems analysis that it's reconceptualized. At the same time, it takes up certain laws, it takes up certain economic decisions like taxations, and also some political decisions. That, but always tries to focus on making people aware not only about the law, nature of law, but or nature of the economic decisions to be being proposed, but that it is beneficial for the people. It is trying to show the benefits of the economy, benefits are being proposed, benefits of the law being proposed. That's why the CA people are being continuously debating on these CAA being proposed. Government is on the other hand, government is trying to continuously trying to show that this is the benefits of CAA. So why are you opposing this? So that way, it is trying to tell that make people aware not only the law but necessity of that law. This is the necessity. Until and unless this law is there, after some times you yourself will be endangered. Your existence will be endangered. So that way you can define hard system and soft system.
So doesn't it get in a disguised form of hard system analysis? Like we are showing them the necessities of that law. Like in hard system analysis, we are telling you either accept this law or go. And in soft system analysis, we are doing the same thing, but in a better way. Like we are telling them to showing them the necessities of the law.
That's true. That's true. But that is very important as well. You know, legitimization, legitimacy is one of the important concepts in political science. That David Hume defined legitimacy as worthiness of an order to be upheld. Until and unless you, from your heart, you feel that some people who are administering me, he is worthy of administering me. In fact, you will be demoralized and you will try to resist, always try to resist. So there will be resistance. Now, legitimization of the authority, that is an important thing. In a hard system, there are certain logics which people do not want to accept. So they may not think that for them, the Taliban, may have their own logic. I do not understand that logic, but they have their own logic. I don't want to go inside that. But legitimizing that system, why are we taking the thing? That is always a democratic system tries to respond to that and tries to make people aware and legitimize its decision. That if you take up this, this decision is good for you. You should abide by law, not because of that. If you don't abide by the law, in that case you will be penalized. But if you don't abide by the law, you will be in danger. Every time, this is important to make people aware of that, the necessity of this thing. In hard systems analysis, this is not being done. This is always, it is focused on sanction, more on sanctions, less on responses, less on communication. So hard systems analysis do not rely on communication. It relies on either you accept or I will force you. But there is a basic difference. You will make people aware, you make people, you are legitimizing your decision, and people from their own, they are accepting that, yes, I accept that. So that way, it is, of course, soft system analysis is better than hard systems analysis.
Thank you, sir.
Can I may I
Please.
supplement a little? It's a very important question that Saurya has raised, because you see, and that is something that I'm going to dwell on, which is who are the people who are the receivers, and what is their status? So it's very good to say that you explain it, you rationally explain it to them with logic and reasoning, and thereafter make it acceptable. But jo receive karega, what is his capacity of understanding, arguing, coming forth and raising objection? That is extremely important, that we often miss out on. So I just want you all to flag that issue in your mind, because when I speak, I'm going to talk about that part also.
That part really, I missed that part. Yes.
No, you haven't missed, Robin, because that is my part, you know, we deal with that. That is our bread and butter.
Nina Joseph is there. Nina,
Yes, Lina.
please unmute yourself, please. Please unmute. I want to interact with you as well. Unmute.
Yeah, yeah. It's very interesting. Thank you for the lecture. Basically, I am a management admin, business management. That is my post-graduation. So we study about system analysis. While you are talking, I was thinking about how a corporate is selling their product. They will try to find out the latent needs of the people and then try to convert those needs into wants and make products so that the people will buy. Do you get me?
Yeah, that's
Yes, it's
marketing.
like
Marketing, Nina.
Marketing, exactly, marketing. So needs, they should convert the needs to wants. For example, one typical example you were telling is that middle-aged women want to look more beautiful. So they want to sell lipsticks. So they try to sell it this way. They are selling hope to make the middle-aged women will buy lipsticks so that they become, they look younger and they become more beautiful. So that is how they manage. So I was also thinking about the farmer's law while you were talking about the soft systems approach and hard systems approach. So I think when I talk, the rest will be understood. Okay, were they able to convince the farmers? What did they do? On whose needs are they delivering? A lot of things were going through my mind. Very nice framework. Thank you.
Anybody else wants to ask any question from the students? Please feel free to ask.
Nina, in what way you can define this? I mean, farmers, the state government, state's approach. I mean, India government's approach to farmers' law. I mean, of course, it's an academic discussion, not a political discussion. But in a what way you to take these things? You just left it for us to think. So analytically, academically, you can discuss. I mean, you can always discuss that it's whether you think it's a subsystem analysis or hard systems analysis. You can always discuss. You can always discuss it. It of course that Nivedita told that basically it depends upon the persons whom we are communicating, that whether they are understanding the thing or not. But if there is a lack of communications also, that if the government thinks that all people are absolutely they are idiots, so we should not communicate with them, then also that becomes very, very important. I mean, funny thing, ridiculous thing that happens. So
that's the first step to autocracy.
That's the first step. Yes.
Empowering citizens is very important to absorb all this. Even when there is a technology, new technology being launched, the citizens' capacity to absorb that. Nivedita ma'am was trying very much for the land reforms and for making everything e-enabled so that it will be maximum transparent. She had a tough time. And she was a warrior fighting for justice.
Tomorrow I'll be dealing with the group approach and elite approach. I don't think that in India, the policy planners, policy makers, they basically, I haven't, in fact, my understanding is, of course, always comes from newspaper or TV or mass media, social media. But that I think that it never takes up, the policy planning is never done on the basis of certain systems analysis. It is being done on, I mean, elite approach that will be more interesting. Either law of oligarchy is there. That I'll be two things, two theories I'll be doing tomorrow. So that is more important in India. And systems analysis, I don't find, I mean, that in a comprehensive whole, thinking into taking into account all the components of a particular system of Indian system, policies being made, that is a pretty rare thing. So we didn't have, still now we don't have comprehensive law on disaster, still now. So that way, Disaster Management Act also, that that doesn't talk about pandemic. I mean, pandemic, they are defining it in the pandemic definition. But there is no reference of pandemic in the situation. And there are many gaps and loopholes in Disaster Management Act, which should be, of course, be filled up. So that way, I think that more, it is more elite theory, which is being applied, which can be applied in Indian policy formulation, rather than systemic analysis, systems analysis. And from some of my television journalists, I have heard that the person, those who are doing this act, doing this, I'm not talking about, but this type of, there are some bureaucrats, they do not have any idea of the things. They said that you give me, send me that, what is your observation, and I'll put it into the draft bill. So the way these laws are made, the way the policies are made, that is very casual, and also getting certain political patronage or certain benefits. So that way, more elite theory can be applied in policy planning, policy formulation, rather than systemic analysis. That is my observation at the end of the lecture that I did.
One point which you made was very vital. That is, make the people conscious about aware about the necessity. So I am reminded about Thomas Taylor's nudge theory, how he was devising methods to nudge the people, and how Abhijit Banerjee was trying to translate it into his work, the Nobel Prize winner in economics in 2018 or 19. So nudging the people to accept certain things, certain rules and laws of the government. Very interesting book, nudge theory. That will expand your point on making the people aware about the necessity. Not actually aware of the necessity, coaxing the people to accept certain policies and laws. Abhijit Banerjee had gone a great extent into that. Actual environment, learning the environment, what motivates the people to accept that, etc. Thank you. Let the students ask.
Let the students ask. Please. They're very important students. I got the idea from Torika that so many very reputed university students are here.
Surya is from your area, sir. He's from Calcutta. Kolkata.
Ria is my student.
Yes.
Yes, Ria Kumar is my student.
Even Surya, who asked the
So,
question,
Surya,
he's from Kolkata, Xavier's College.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, very good.
He's from your place. Even we have many students from Northeast, but they don't interact.
So that is the thing. The interaction is very much important.
Absolutely. That's why, we have kept, in the end, we have kept this time, especially for interaction. And the students have to utilize this time, how they utilize it efficiently, it will be for their understanding only. So please, please ask questions. Please,
Or
think
if
and
you
ask.
if you have any observation also,
Yeah,
we
absolutely.
don't mind. You may be in others' perception, you may be wrong, you may be right, you may be very good, you may be very bad, but your observation matters to us. So please.
And we want to learn from you as well. It has to be a two-way
Right.
approach.
Right. But except Sotia, no.
Nivedita ma'am will make every student, speak in her class. I'm sure about it.
I will also insist on all of them having their videos on.
Yeah, absolutely. So today I made up a point that everyone has to switch on their video. But still some of them haven't.
In fact, whom I am speaking to,
Yeah.
that should be known.
So, sir, what should we do if they don't have any questions? Can we end now?
Then 10 minutes to go.
Yes.
Can,
yeah. We have 9 minutes to go.
9 minutes to go.
Whatever you suggest.
I think someone should ask a question. There are so many. I mean, Ashish Kumar, Deepak, Shivani, Pandey.
Perhaps, Robin, they have no questions. They have understood your lecture.
Yeah.
So
you were so lucid today, sir. Even, I think it's clear, simply crystal clear to each one of us.
Oh.
And your PPT is really excellent.
Very comprehensive, sir.
All together, yeah.
Yeah.
I just want to tell to my students, participants, that long back I went to, there was a very famous dramatist in our West Bengal. He was, so I went to just watch his the drama played by him. So next day, he also used to commute with me to Harvard. He was an officer, but he used to commute with me to Harvard. And next day, I told him that I watched your play yesterday. So he became astonished and became very angry and said, "But you will come to me." I said, "You must be feeling tired." That's why I also felt that. What should I tell? But I have certain points. But you should have taken all the people with you who are there just to tell me how did you like the play, or did you like the play or not? That I wanted to hear, not from you just now. I wanted to hear it yesterday. So that is the thing. After the lecture, teacher always wants to interact with the students, so that the way they are, I mean, they have grasped the thing. It's not that the way I am thinking, that you are also thinking that way, but the way you are thinking, that is very important to the teacher, because I want to know the gap, or I mean, whether the gap between us, and also whether the gap is very fulfilling for me as well. It may be very fulfilling for me, that you are thinking in another way. So please, if you have any observation, please may, and also if you cannot tell today, but you ask that question tomorrow, please, because this 20 minutes very important for me as well. That I'm speaking to, presenting my lecture to so many important institutions, I mean, so many students of these reputed institutions. So I also want to know that the way students take me. So Modern University, they never will tell me. But you can always tell me. And you don't have anything to fear for me. Nobody has anything to fear for their career as far as myself is concerned. But students always think that as far as career is concerned, don't go against the teacher, don't go ask any question. But here, this is the way, this is the area where you can ask me any question and I'll have to give the answers. So please ask me if it is not today, tomorrow, please ask me the question. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rabin sir. I would request Vedi to please give the vote of thanks. Vedi, over to you.
Yes, ma'am. On behalf of all present, I would like to thank Dr. Rabindranath Bhattacharya for such an amazing session. I would also like to thank all the attendees for joining us today, and we look forward to meeting you all tomorrow. Once again, thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, and see you tomorrow. Thank you so much,
Okay.
Nivedita ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Meena
you,
ma'am.
sir.
Thank you so much.